everybody. Good evening and welcome into Feldco Bears Recap Live. Along with the great Tom Waddle, good old number 87, and good old number 57, the one and only Olin Kreutz. I'm David Kaplan. All right, gentlemen, let's get right into it because we're talking about a victory. That's right. It's Victory Tuesday here. So, Tommy, start it off. This is our 4 seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric game recap. Tommy, 40 points, baby.
Yeah, you know what? We talked about this last week about how this team just needed to get a W so that they could go into the long weekend feeling better about themselves. And if they could get the win and kind of wash all of the stench off of them, enjoy themselves for the long weekend, and then get back to work against the Minnesota Vikings and feel better about themselves. If I was a coach, if I was Eberflus, I would be telling these guys, look, the first 4 weeks of the season is preseason. We don't even worry about that, knowing that it wasn't, but just trying to convince them that that's in the past. And, the season started with the win over the Commanders on Thursday night. Let's build on that and go forward. But I think that you'll see a team probably with a lot of energy and a team that feels significantly better about themselves than they did going into that game Thursday night. I'll say this as well, guys. I know Olin would feel the same way. I give this coaching staff a lot of credit. They're coming off a short week. They were coming off a really disappointing loss that, against the Broncos. They just collapsed. It would be very easy for them to go to Washington and just lay down, and they did. And they came out there with a more focused team. I thought they were the more prepared team, and give them a lot of credit for finding a way to get a W.
Oh, gee, what did you think about – because going into it, I was terrified of their front four. I thought the Bears, man, knocked them in the mouth.
Yeah, it was the first third down. You were waiting for that ferocious Washington front to just attack Justin Fields, and you didn't see anything. You're like, huh. And then they get to 3rd and 14, and the same thing happens, right? It's 3rd and 14 on their first drive. The safety rolls down because somebody better spy Justin Fields. And all of a sudden, the O-line holds up against that front with all those first-round picks. Chase Young, Payne, Allen, Sweat, all those guys. I was expecting guys to see somebody at least in the vicinity of Justin Fields. And it didn't mean the O-line did that all night, but it just, you knew right there, you're like, man, if these guys give this Justin Fields a chance and they're going to go one-on-one with DJ Moore or put a rookie on him, this could be an interesting night and make for an interesting game. And it's funny, guys, when you watch this film, right, it's like as bad as Justin Fields was playing, the amount of respect that the Washington Commanders were giving his running ability, whether he would keep the ball or scramble, or the amount of guys they're putting there to watch him. It's fascinating to see what coaches, great coaches like Del Rio and Ron Rivera, still have respect for the things Justin Fields can do to you out there on that field.
So Tommy and I know you watch the All-22, and Tommy and I were talking yesterday and today. I thought the O-line had a really good night. Nate Davis, I'm seeing him hit people in the mouth, down the field. I thought Darnell Wright had a really good night. He got beat by Sweat once, and then I thought he got locked in, and I was impressed with the majority of the evening on the O-line.
I got to agree with you guys. If that's what you guys, because we've been talking about on this show, right? Although they were losing, Darnell Wright looked good. Looked like he was capable of being a good football, violent. We raved about him the first week. And then we talked about the second half last week with him and Nate Davis and thought they played well together. And that continued again. And look, they lose Lucas Patrick, move Cody to center. Cody's got to practice those snaps. It's the first time he's been in there, obviously. Tevin Jenkins goes in. Same Tevin Jenkins we see when he's on that field. Big, strong, nasty, hard to deal with inside with his forward. Look, guys, we've been saying for years around here, put some assets on that offensive line. Very interesting, right? You see a free agent and 2 first-round picks playing, and then you're saying, man, these guys look pretty darn good.
Yeah, if they could find a way to secure their center position and Braxton comes back and builds on what he did last year, I mean, they've got a chance. This offensive line is very encouraging. And I'll say this as well. I think for the first time this year, I saw a Bears receiving core winning the majority of their battles. Their individual,
man.
Whether it was, It was DJ Moore consistently all night longer. It was Darnell Mooney. Now, unfortunately, Justin and Mooney weren't able to connect, but Darnell Mooney was shaking his guy, and they won the majority of their singular battles against the Commanders' defensive backs. This was the first play of the game. And I just think that, we can haggle over whether or not Darnell should have stopped and turned the way he did, but that ball's got to be thrown. Look at, the left picture, you can see there's a huge distance between Darnell Mooney and the sideline. Just throw the ball over there and let him go that way to go get it. And so first of all, Darnell with a really nice move to get free. It was not, in my opinion, again, I have a receiver bias. I don't think it was a good throw by Justin. It was the first throw of the game. But I give Justin credit. You don't hang your head. You go back to work and you don't let it affect you. But, it was a really good example from the opening play of the game. Look, if the Commanders want to come up and play man-to-man defense, you got to trust your wide receivers to win their individual battles. And for the majority of the evening, I thought those guys did a really nice job winning those battles.
Olin, explain to me, when I watch the Bears offensive line, how they can look so much better. Is it Nate Davis having another week under his legs? Is it getting Tevin Jenkins back? Because I thought they not only held up very well, I thought they played violent in a lot of situations. Like this run that you told me to pull, this was an impressive run.
Yeah, and so it's the cohesiveness you always talk about, right? The unit has to work together. That's why we're so worried about, with Nate Davis, when he wasn't out there with them, would they be able to handle the games, the stunts by the defensive line? That reared its head. Then they lost Braxton Jones to the neck injury. Then they lost Cody White. Then Lucas Patrick had to move to center. Then they lost Lucas Patrick. So they've been going through a lot of things, but all you're seeing is this, Cap. Nate Davis has been at practice. He's played a few games, and you see a young first-round right tackle who's getting reps under his belt and learning that, look, I'm sure Coach Morgan told him, you don't have to drop your head out there, big man. You're so big and strong. Make them run through you. You don't have to duck your head on guys. They're getting to learn the little details on where they want each other on double teams, what they want to do on every block. On that play by Herbert, again, Fields just faking the ball like he's going outside. He takes two defenders with him. The right side of the line we talked about last week. Man, run behind the right side of that offensive line against Washington. Let's see if Washington can handle it. And all of a sudden he breaks free for 34 yards run. And again, we talked about last week, Herbert is one arm tackle away from going 30, 40 yards into the house. Now, obviously his injury worries you, but on this play here, just guys getting used to each other, getting better, and their quarterback, again, all of a sudden, he's been a multiplier. He's making guys around him better, and you're seeing everyone benefit from that.
Tommy, watching DJ Moore, and you said to me 5 minutes watching him one practice when you and Sylvie were up at Hallis Hall, that's the best receiver I've ever seen in a Bears uniform since you were playing. Isn't that what you said?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was my exact words were, in watching the first practice of minicamp, was there's no doubt in my mind who their best player is, regardless of position. It's number two.
So what did he do that was so impressive? Because 230 yards is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third game I think he's had 100 yards this year. It's just like, I'm sure Olin would be able to describe what makes an offensive lineman, really, really good. When I watch DJ, first of all, he's strong, he's stout, he's 6 foot tall, and he's 210 pounds, and he's just, he's he's built like a rock, and he's strong. There's no wasted motion in his routes. So like, you don't know where he's going because he is so fluid. He uses his body in a very, intelligent way. And he's a hand catcher. He goes up and catches the football with his hands. He's just a difference maker. And when you combine all of those attributes, then you've got a guy that can really, make a difference in a game and bring a ton of confidence into that offensive huddle and lift up his young quarterback. So, I mean, they were just in helmets and sweatshirts when I first, and I knew DJ could play. I mean, he's been in the league for a while, but when you see him, again, just some guys, it looks hard. Like when I went out there and play, I mean, it looked hard. It looked like I was laboring to do stuff. when he's out there running routes, regardless if he's running nines, he's running corners, he's running, hitches or slants, it's effortless. So guys that can make it look easy, those are the guys that guys that work their ass off. And I think Eberflus said it, there's no one on that roster that worked harder than DJ. So when your best player is also one of your hardest workers, give it time. It'll blossom.
In watching the run game, and I know Khalil Herbert's going to be down now, they're saying for multiple weeks. So we'll see Deontay Foreman. Roshan Johnson was in the concussion protocol. So I would imagine Foreman's going to get the lion's share of the work. What did you see about their ability to run the football beyond the offensive line? Because I thought Justin having a good night opened everything up, right, Olin?
Yeah, it always does. In Cap, you need to let me and Tom out of this box you put us in. I talk about O-line. He talks about wide receiver. I feel like he talk about a lot of different things.
I was getting ready to go to defense.
No, you're putting me in a box here. You put me just with the fat guys.
All right,
That's fine.
I'll eat my donut while you guys talk.
Listen, Cap, the thing you're talking about was what we just talked about, man. I mean, Justin Fields, what we've been waiting for, that win you guys talked about. I had a victory Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I enjoyed the hell out of the Bears winning, but they did run the ball better. They do have a young, violent offensive lineman who looks like he can get to this. We've been talking about this blue chip player level that we need guys to rise to. They got a good young veteran guard there, Nate Davis, right? Cody Whitehair, then Tevin Jenkins comes in. All of a sudden, they're this big, physical, mean offensive line. Now, Khalil Herbert, they will miss him. He's a good running back. Now, Deontay Foreman, the last time I saw him was against the Packers. I thought, if I remember correctly, at the second quarter. Then they went to Roshan Johnson, but hopefully they get Roshan back. But this offensive line with Justin Fields, DJ Moore, as Tom knows, you better get a safety over the top of that guy. Now, guess what? When a safety's over the top of that guy, he's not where? He's not in the box, right? So now we can run the ball. We got numbers. We got an advantage. Now you got a receiver who takes a safety out of the box, and you got a quarterback who holds the backside contained. You just took two guys out of the box. You have the numbers. You run the ball downhill behind a big offensive line that loves to run block. That's violent. That's physical. Things could get better, guys. That's what's interesting about these Chicago Bears. It could actually get better now that people are scared of Moore and Fields.
You know what's funny too is to build on that. Like, I think Luke Getsy did a really nice job in terms of building the confidence of his young quarterback. And once the quarterback is confident, everyone in that offensive huddle becomes confident because everyone is staring at their quarterback. And when they see confusion in his eyes or they see a lack of confidence in his eyes, then it kind of permeates throughout the entire offensive huddle. And conversely, when you step into that huddle and your quarterback's like he's feeling good and he's feeling strong and he's feeling confident, that kind of, it multiplies and it's contagious. And I think that, to get back to what I was saying, I think Luke Getsy did a really nice job making sure that when they had an opportunity to score, that they gave Justin an opportunity to have a couple of touchdown passes here or there. They could have run the football, but what they wanted to do was build his confidence. I go back to several years ago when Matt Nagy was trying to build confidence with Mitch, and it kept going to him, and he ended up throwing those 6 touchdown passes against Tampa Bay. That goes a very long way for a young quarterback in building that confidence. So now that you've started to rebuild some of that confidence and he's feeling better about himself, I think you go back to, like Olin said, now we're still a run-first team in a lot of ways. Pound the rock because you have the capacity to do it. And guess what happens when you start running it successfully? The play action opens up and everything else opens up too. So I love what they've done with the passing game, and I think that they've been judicious with it. I think they've done a really nice job building up the confidence of their quarterback, but there's no reason for them to become the Chargers. There's no reason for them to drop back and throw it 40 times a game when they have the ability to run it. So I would think that you go back and you're going to be a very balanced attack because it's what they do best, in my opinion.
Olin, explain to me, we have some pictures here. This is the last touchdown. It was, I think, 3rd and 2. Mm-hmm. And I want you to take us through this play because I don't understand why you would be playing so far off of DJ Moore in when they lined up, it's only a 2-yard to get a first down, and then they gamble and try and jump the route, and it ends up in 6 points. Take us through that.
Yeah, it's an interesting call by Jack Del Rio, but it goes back to what we're talking about, right? Like, you got to respect it. The Bears can do so many things at that moment, Cap, right? They can run behind their big offensive line now that they got Davis and they got Wright, and they got I don't think Mercedes Lewis is on the field, but DJ Moore. I mean, if you play him up top, he, like Tom said, man, you watch him play. He makes everything look easy. So he runs a slant on you, or he runs a quick out, or he just runs a go and beats you. So you try to bait the quarterback into throwing that quick stop route, and they did, right? They baited it, and Fuller was right there, and he was close, man. That's the NFL, Tom. You can see his hand. I mean, the ball barely misses his hand, but that happens every week in the NFL. Credit Fields for having the arm strength to get it out. Credit the offensive line for keeping that defensive line off of their young quarterback. He has almost 3 yards in that pitcher to throw the ball, right? He needs all of that room to put all of that velocity on that football and hit more. But, Cap, the answer to your question is that's the kind of weapons the Chicago Bears have now. Now, obviously, they'll play teams that match up a little better against them, and they'll roll safeties over the top and press more. But if you do that, I'm going to check with me inside run keep with Justin Fields, and how are you going to stop that?
Yeah, that was zero coverage. I mean, that was man with really nobody in the middle of the field. And if you watch the film, the corner settles his feet. I don't know if it was Fuller or it was the other guy, but like the corner read the route pretty well. He was just a split second off. That ball also, it's a great catch by DJ. The ball's got to be a little bit further to the outside, but, this is the essence of having a difference-making wide receiver, a one in your huddle that can make that catch and turn it into a big play. I give Getsy, I give them a lot of credit for making the decision to take a shot, but that's just your wide receiver making a play against zero coverage and taking it to the house. So, it's sometimes you hit it, other times you don't. But that night they seemed to the extent of the passing game. I'm going to say this though, as good as they were in the first half, in the second half of that game, the extent of the passing game was basically 2 hitch routes that DJ took and ran. That was it. They kind of stalled. They stalled in the second half a little bit. But DJ made plays, and that was the difference of the game.
So we gave the Dr. Pepper play and player of the game. The play was that last TD, and the play of the game, player of the game is DJ Moore. 8 catches, 230 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Those are our Dr. Pepper player and play of the game. Dr. Pepper, an American original, just like our Chicago Bears, pleasing your taste buds since 1885. Dr. Pepper has a unique combination of 23 different flavors, a winning formula football fans love. Grab an ice cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. And I grabbed one right there, baby.
What flavor is that one this time?
Oh, look at Olin. This one is strawberry and cream.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what this is. This is Dr. Pepper.
That's the original. You got the 23 flavors mixed. There you go.
Keep an eye on DJ again this week because nobody blitzes more than Brian Flores for the Minnesota Vikings. So there are going to be opportunities unless they roll a safety over the top. You may see a repeat performance against the Vikings on Sunday because they take a ton of chances. And you saw when you take a chance with this kid and you don't make the most of it, he's going to make you pay.
Olin, defensively, Eddie Jackson was on ESPN 1000 with Black and Abdali. He said, I'm practicing on Wednesday. I'm back. Yeah. I'm ready to go. Getting him back, hopefully getting Jalen Johnson back, and subtracting Justin Jefferson from the Minnesota Vikings. What does that do for the Bears defense, getting those 2 guys back in the back end?
Well, those guys are 2 guys who are capable of being elite, and they've shown that, right? They've shown the fact that they can play at a high level. Eddie Jackson, now this is a few years ago, but, hopefully he can get to his ball hawk days. And then Jalen Johnson is just – I think he's a great cornerback, guys. When I watch him play, I enjoy watching a young man play football. He's tough. He's physical. He gets after guys. They add a lot to this defense, and it gives Coach Flus more room to be a little more aggressive like he was being now. Cousins is not Howell. We won't lie about that. His Vikings offensive line is better than the Commanders' offensive line. They match up better against the Bears' defensive front. Billings, I thought, made a big play in the game on that 3rd and 1 to start the game where he returned stunt. One of the worst things for a center, man, when you have a one-on-one block on short yardage and the guy stunts across your face. It just sucks. But credit to Billings. I think he's been playing great. But they'll help a lot, especially with Justin Jefferson out. You can add guys to the box. And I think, Tom, they're going to need to, because I think this Vikings offensive line is one of the better units they've seen this year so far.
I thought that Matt Eberflus had a good night on Thursday night. I thought that
he was aggressive, man.
It was the most aggressive defensive game plan I've seen since he's become their head coach. I think they blitzed on better than 30% of the snaps, and I don't think that they had gotten anywhere close to that in the previous 4 games and at all probably the year before. And look, if it's getting hot in the room and you can hear the drums beating and you're starting to be talked about as a coach on a hot seat, if I'm that guy, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm going to go out taking my shots. And I thought that he did a really nice job. If I can't pressure with my front 4, I'm going to give you different looks. I'm going to bring blitzes from everywhere, and we're going to go down swinging. And my hope is when that secondary does get healthier, and I think it is the strength of their defense right now. I hope that Eberflus remains aggressive. Don't go back to what's comfortable to you because now you've got a full complement of your starters. Maintain that aggressive approach, and you're going to get beat at times. Big deal. But if you're going to go down swinging and go down taking your shots. And I hope that they remain aggressive even when their guys get back.
Speaking of coaching, go ahead, Olin.
No, I was going to say, to Tom's point, I think that Eberflus, Justin Fields said it best for the whole team. F it. I'm just going to go out there. I'm just going. That's the point they're at. It seems like, and good for them, because like we talked about, Cap and Tom, on this show, when you play bad, that's weeks in advance. You're not preparing. You're not focusing. When they play good against the Commanders, I give them credit, because that means when we were all shedding on them, we were all telling them how bad they were working hard in the building. You don't accidentally play like that in the NFL. You don't accidentally get a guy like Stroman to get an interception there right before the half. I was worried about when they took the ball, the 2-for-1. That's the one thing you worry about at the end of that half, right? Can they score and get a 2-for-1? Stroman gets an interception. Justin Fields playing at a high level. Wright playing better. Davis playing better. Credit their coaching staff and the players for working hard through the time when everybody was saying they were terrible.
Yeah. You're watching Feldco Bears Recap live here on our Recap channel, also available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. So, Olin, Tommy, and Sylvia are interviewing Jeff Saturday today, and he starts the interview by saying, if I ever got back in coaching there, the first guy I hire is Olin Kreutz.
And George McCaskey said, that's with a grain of salt, right? He said, I'd only take that. Jeff's a good guy, man. Obviously, me and Jeff are friends. We played at the same time. We were drafted the same year. I'm sure he's just saying that because, I mean, he got that chance last year, which is an amazing opportunity. I don't know what Tom feels about that. But, I mean, if someone calls you, man, I don't know how you say no. I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy by the Colts. But what a great opportunity he got last year to go there and coach the team that he played for in the NFL. What a learning experience that must have been. So I appreciate him saying that. I would have a lot to learn, obviously.
You know, it's funny. I mean, to do that job, we all know how difficult that job is, and it's time consuming, and it's, you know, you got to be all in for it. But can you imagine taking over with you're coming not from a positional spot. You're not an assistant coach. You're an analyst on ESPN, and you get dropped in. You know, I mean, you want to be dropped in. So, I mean, you're a willing participant, but you're dropped in the middle of the season. Like, you don't know what offenses really they're running. You don't know the tenor of the atmosphere. You don't know the different players. And I know Jeff was familiar with the Colts, but imagine how hard that job is to begin with, but then taking over the team halfway through the season. So, you know, the reason we had him on today was to talk football with him for sure, because we love him as an analyst, but also to say thank you to him, because not only Lovey and the Houston Texans, but what happened to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, look what the end result was. We ended up with the first pick of the draft. We turned that trade, Ryan Poles did, into DJ Moore. We used that pick on Darnell Wright, and you got the number one pick, the Panthers' number one pick next year, which could end up being the number one overall selection again.
Oh, it probably will be.
We just wanted to make sure that we said thank you to all the right people. So he was a good quarterback.
Okay. So Olin, let me ask you a question, because there's all this talk that if Caleb Williams comes out, Robert Mays was on with those guys. I talked to Rick Spielman yesterday. He said, if you give me the guys that went number one, I'd take Caleb Williams at the moment they were drafted ahead of Joe Burrow, ahead of Trevor Lawrence. He said he'd be 1B to Andrew Luck 1A, and I'd take him ahead of Peyton Manning. Not what they became, what they were on draft day. So if you're the Bears and Justin has a really good year, it's a chance to reset the clock on what you're paying. It's a chance to get your own guy because Poles didn't draft Justin. How do you leave a generational talent on the board? But if Justin proves himself, you're like, we've been freaking looking for a good quarterback forever in this town. We got one. We're not going to use him.
Yeah, look, I haven't studied Caleb Williams at all, but I will say this. If you think he's a generational talent, unless Justin Fields shows himself to be that, it's a no-brainer, right? And then if Justin Fields has a good year, you trade him too, and you get more picks, right? You get somebody else's first-round pick. So if this kid is who everybody's saying he is, and those guys you mentioned, Cap, they didn't miss. They were good. If they're saying what they think they are now, I do remember Rick Spielman doing his bench contest at Hallis Hall. So take that. Anyway, Rick's a good friend. Rick actually, we have a running joke because the Bears drafted me, and it was Rick Spielman them who came after me when they were with the Dolphins. So Rick always tells me I owe him some money, and he's probably right. But and he's a really good guy, and he was a really good general manager, and he knows talent. And this is what everyone's saying, Tom, about this young man at USC. They are saying that. I would have to get on campus. I'd have to talk to his coaches, his teammates. I'd have to put him in the film room. I'd have to make sure I'm seeing him processing information on the field, getting the ball out, going to reads, be 100% sure. But if everyone's saying the same thing, those guys usually don't miss.
Yeah, the beauty of this situation, guys, is, and we've mentioned this over the last couple of weeks, there's no rush. They're 5 games in. You get 12 games left.
12 more.
You don't have to make any decisions right now. So, just keep on keeping on. And maybe Justin, maybe Justin, this is the beginning of his growth. Maybe he becomes that difference-making quarterback. Maybe he leads you. Again, just hypothetically, maybe he leads you to 9 wins or 10 wins and you get into the postseason. How likely is that? I wouldn't say it's very likely, but whatever. And he's the reason why you get there. Well, then maybe you don't make that change, but you've got a lot of time between now and then to come to that conclusion. And I don't think that there's going to be any rush. Look, when you find a guy that you have scouted and you believe in, if Ryan Poles gets to the end of this season and believes that Caleb Williams is that once-in-a-lifetime guy, and even if Justin has played fairly well or played well, if Ryan Poles thinks that this is the best quarterback he's seen in his lifetime, he owes it to himself and his team to make that selection. Like, you can't be afraid to make a decision based on, hey, what if over here? No, you got to go with what's in your gut. So I haven't come to any conclusions at this point. I personally believe that I really like what I've seen from Justin in terms of the improvements. And to me, the improvements are a couple of things. He's trusting what he's seeing. There were times when he would drop back and he'd hitch and he'd hitch and he'd hitch and he wasn't trusting what he was seeing. Next thing you know, he's getting sacked because he's holding the ball for 5 seconds. Well, now he's dropping back. He believes in what he's seeing and he's throwing it. He left several throws on the field in Washington. He missed Darnell Mooney 2 or 3 times. He missed DJ Moore on a stop and go. It wasn't a perfect performance, but it was an improved performance. And he's pointed in the right direction. And most importantly to me, took care of the football. There were 0 turnovers. And I said to you guys last week, I saw progress in the first 3 weeks against the Denver Broncos, but true progress occurs in crunch time. And in crunch time 2 weeks before, they turned the ball over twice in the fourth quarter, committed 4 penalties. They found a way to lose that game. Well, Thursday night against the Commanders, they found a way to win that game. And to me, that's where the growth is. So pointed in the right direction. But if Ryan Poles scouts Caleb Williams and thinks that this is a once-in-a-lifetime type of quarterback, Justin's going to have to play the rest of the season the way he played in the first 3 quarters against the Denver Broncos to secure that spot going forward. And that's just the nature of the beast. But I wouldn't rule anything out. I wouldn't come to any conclusions after 5 games in this season.
All right, let's take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll go over Justin Fields' performance by the numbers. We'll be right back on Feldco Bears Recap Live.
The house before you, over 30 years old, still has its original windows. Bone chiller.
There's no need to be afraid of old windows.
Feldco's got you covered this fall with 40% off windows and 40% off roofing. Plus, no interest for 1 year. 40% off windows and roofing won't last long. Hurry. Call now.
Call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4-FELDCO. 4 Seasons, heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. For all the right reasons, 4 Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. All right, time for Justin Fields numbers. We call it Winging It with Westtown Bakery in Wheeling, and we thank them for a bunch of the goodies that they dropped off today here. And I think Olin's got some at his house. We'll get you some, Tommy. Justin, 15 of 29, so not as good in terms of percentage, but 282 yards and 4 scores and 0 interceptions, Olin. That is the big deal.
That is a big deal, and he is playing the last, of 3 quarters of the Denver game. His last game, playing good football, man. As Tom talked about, a little worried about, that third quarter going into before he made the pass some more, worried about the end of the Denver game. But here's a guy who looks like he's seen the field a little better. Getting a relationship with DJ Moore, actually controlling, I think, we talked a little bit, and we're going to have to see this week, controlling the line of scrimmage a little better, I think. Checking in the plays, checking out of plays, checking the run plays. Thought he checked through that draw on one play on third down. I thought he made that check there. So Getsy went to a few runs there on third down in the Commanders game. I thought those are good calls, but just controlling everything, Tom, a little bit better and making everybody's job around him that much easier. Now, I know these aren't 2 very good defenses. Both of them giving up 30 points a game. That's what we're talking about. We just got to keep seeing it. But I can't take away from him that he is playing better football. He's playing the quarterback position at a higher level than he was.
And he's playing confident. Like that's the game. I mean, sports is all about it at whatever level.
You think he's playing less robotic, Tommy?
Yeah, but I think less robotic is synonymous with more confident. When you're not confident, then you become robotic. You're not certain about what you're supposed to do. You just let it flow again. And to me, it's about trusting what you're seeing and not questioning yourself, because everything has to happen in a very quick period of time. I mentioned that, there were some throws on Thursday night that he did miss. So there is still room for progress, but the completion percentage is about 50% in that game. That number isn't good enough. But what I will say inside of that number was several moments where he threw the ball away. Instead of taking a sack or forcing the ball into a tight situation, he threw the ball out of bounds. That's growth. I thought there were a couple of times where he tucked and he was running, whether it was a design quarterback run or it was him doing his own thing, where he got what he could get, and he got out of bounds. Like, that is smart football. Like last year, he tried to get every last yard, and I think he paid the price physically for doing that. You have to be judicious and intelligent about how you run the football as a quarterback, because so much is asked of you. You have to conserve some of your energy as well because you got to get back in the huddle, call the play, and get up to the line of scrimmage and have enough left in the tank to make plays when you're called upon. So I'm seeing things that he's doing that may not actually show up in the stat sheet, but they are signals to me that the growth is taking place. And again, throwing the football away and not taking sacks and also protecting himself and not trying to get that last half yard when it's not necessary on first down. I think those are signs that the growth continues.
And that is our Justin Fields winging it. We gave you his numbers, and it's brought to you by West Town Bakery. And they're at the corner of Lake Cook in Milwaukee. They got really good stuff. And
it looks like your second donut. Is that your second donut?
It's still my first one. But They do have brunch Saturday and Sunday. They got amazing brunch. And West Town is a famous, famous bakery, man. I'm telling you.
You know, Captain Tom, I was thinking about too with Justin Fields is, and just going through the stats here real quick. We've been talking so much about him passing the ball and processing information. We want to see this. He hasn't had that game yet where he rushed for 100 yards, where he puts the defense on notice, and you know that's coming with his talent, his skill set. Eventually, with what he just did the last 2 games, now they got to play him in a different style. And does that open up the run lanes for him? Does that open up the quarterback runs for the Chicago Bears that we saw sprinkled in here and there by Getsy? So it's very interesting to see now, can we blend this all together and see the Justin Fields that maybe the Chicago Bears thinks he's capable of being?
Yep.
Sheridan wants to know, Olin, he can get you $16 an hour to work for him. He beat the Bears by $1 an hour. Are you interested?
That's interesting. But right now, Jason McKee's got me working for him for free up there at Carmel Catholic. Shout out to the Carmel Catholic guys. The players there told me they maybe were some of our biggest fans. So shout out to them for watching us. They watch our show at night. But Jason McKee's got me for free. That's what George did wrong. All you got to do is show somebody a little respect, a little love, and maybe they come work for you.
So as you look at this game, the Bears are still banged up. They don't have Braxton Jones. We hope Eddie's back. We hope Jalen Johnson's back. Kyler Gordon's window was activated to get back on the field. Maybe that's this Sunday. Maybe it's the following week when they play the Raiders. But if they get completely healthy and we don't get smashed with some serious injury to a key guy, can this team get on a run, do you both think? Or relax, Sparky, they're not that good?
Well, I personally think that, you're going to face teams where you're going to have a chance. Like, I would have never predicted that they were going to Kansas City to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They're just not in their class.
Correct.
But the rest of the NFL, like, how many elite teams are there, Olin? There's the 49ers, there's the Eagles, there's the Chiefs, there's the Bills, there's the Dolphins. And then, I may be missing a team or two, but you should be able to compete with the vast majority of the teams in this league, including the Minnesota Vikings, a team that struggles at times to protect their own quarterback. Their best weapon is not going to be available. This is a team that is, they're 1-4 themselves. They're questioning themselves. There's talk that they may be interested or they may be willing to listen to a trade offer for their quarterback if the Jets come knocking. So you're catching them at the right time. You feel good about yourself. You're coming off a little bit of a long week. I mean, this is definitely a game where you should be able to go out there and enthusiastically dictate the pace of this game and try to, enforce your will on them at the line of scrimmage. And I think that they can do that.
Olin, do you think Kirk Cousins is a good football player? There's so many people are so negative on Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. And Tommy's always been more of a fan of his than most. And I went back 7 of the last 8 years, he's thrown for north of 4,000 yards. Mm-hmm. And, like my producer today is like, those are empty calories. You don't throw for 4,000 plus yards in the NFL 7 out of 8 years.
It's funny, man. But yes, I'm a former ball player like Tommy, and this guy is a good football player. Now, is he one of the elite quarterbacks? Is he the top 3 or 4 or 5 guys in the world? No, obviously not. But there's only 3 or 4 or 5 guys like that in the world, right? Yeah. He has one of the 32 jobs. Obviously, they're paying him. You can see he reads defenses. He gets the ball out. He does make some mistakes you don't want him to make, like taking a sack on a Hail Mary to end the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. We never want to see someone take a sack on a Hail Mary, but those are the maddening things about Kirk Cousins. But by no means is this guy like a, bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL. Pretty good. You'll see that come Sunday. He'll run his offense. He knows where guys are lining up. He knows how to go through his progression and usually knows where he has to go with the ball.
It's so funny. Like, it drives me crazy. And I've never, ever said Kirk Cousins was an elite quarterback. I don't think he is. But as Olin said, there's 3 or 4 every year. Like back in the day, there was Rodgers, Brady, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and that was kind of it, right? And now who are they? It's maybe Josh Allen. It's obviously Mahomes. It's Burrow when he's healthy. And then guys are going to ride that roller coaster. Some years they're going to be up. Some years they're going to be down. Is Jared Goff a good quarterback? I've heard people for years say Jared Goff's no good. Jared Goff last year threw 29 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions. Like, come on. I mean, like,
almost 5,000 yards.
Yeah, it's a really difficult effing job to do when someone's trying to rip your head off, and to be able to do it at the level that these guys are doing it. I'm not telling you they're elite. I'm not telling you that they're going to go out there and make you forget about Patrick Mahomes. But if I'm Dan Campbell, I kind of like what my quarterback Jared Goff's done the last year plus. So that stuff kind of makes me a little bit.
Well, think about it, Tom. We talked about offensive linemen, right? We talked about what do you expect from Nate Davis? What do you expect from Lucas Patrick? Well, I expect them to play at the level you're paying them to play at. Well, the top quarterbacks in the league now make $50 million a year, I think. Kirk makes 35, right? He makes $35 million a year. I could use 35 million, but what I'm saying is, if he was elite, he'd be making 50. So you're getting about that level. I think when I watch, you're getting about that level of play from him, where he lands on the pay scale. That's what they're paying him. The Vikings know if they're going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, they better have a top 5 run game and a top 5 defense. And they don't have either. And you better lead the league in turnover differential. And they are on the other side of the league.
Yeah.
By the way, did you guys see the end of the Chiefs-Vikings game? They call pass interference in the end zone, and then they end up picking up the flag, and the defender took his helmet off, and they just gave him a pass on that. I was furious. Now, I had the over in the game and needed the points, but
love that, Cap. Love it. I listen, I mean, I know rules are rules, and they got to enforce them all the same, but I don't mind a ref telling the guy to put his helmet on. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just an old school ball player.
You know what?
It was PI?
Was it Snead? I think it was Snead. Like, he didn't take his helmet off and go after the official. He kind of just took his helmet off and had a very calm, professional, and mature conversation with the. So I didn't think it was an egregious. I know by the letter of the law, if you take your helmet off, it's supposed to be a penalty. But I wasn't bothered by it. I think the reason they picked up the flag, didn't they pick it up because they thought the ball was tipped? But when they showed the replay, it wasn't tipped.
It was never tipped.
No, it was Cousins' arm was hit by the defensive lineman that came in on the rush. So
correct.
It was odd. Look, the Minnesota Vikings were nowhere close to as good as their record last year because they won every one-score game.
But they're not as bad as 1-4 either.
Yeah, and all of their losses are by one score. And look, in the NFL, most losses and most wins are one-score wins and losses because it's a very competitive league. I don't think they're an elite team. I think they're a middle-of-the-pack team. I don't think that I don't think they come in here and the Bears have no chance. I think the Bears have a very good chance of getting to what would it be 2-4 on the season if they win on Sunday.
Oh, gee, how much do you think it helps the Bears? We got a question from a bunch of different people here. Robert Sanchez, I'll give it to him. With Jefferson out, should it A, help the Bears put more pressure on Cousins? And then a bunch of questions want to know, what does that do to the Vikings offense? Because they still got Hawkinson and Osborne and Jordan Addison, a pretty good offensive line. Like, they still got talent there now.
Well, I know my place on this podcast, so I'm not going to talk about how good Justin Jefferson is. But I will say this: they have a lot of talent. Hawkinson's good. We talked about that offensive line; those are all first or second round draft picks on that offensive line. And they got Bradbury back, their center. He was out for a while. He's really improved his game. They took him in the first round a few years back. and he's gotten a lot better, man. So this defensive line, they got a tough matchup with, I think, Alexander Madison running the ball there. I'm sure they're going to try to run the ball on this Bears defense to open up those passing lanes. But this is the best offensive line they've seen in a couple of weeks here, the Chicago Bears defensive line. They still have enough weapons. They still have first-round picks at wide receiver. They still got a good running back. They got a good fullback. We talked about Kirk Cousins. So good offensive mind in their head coach. Good matchup here for Coach Eberflus and his defense to see if they've really taken that next step, or it was just Tom was Howell holding the ball just too damn long. As an offensive lineman, I got to be honest with you, I was watching that game, and I thought to myself, I have played with quarterbacks like that, and that is a nightmare.
I looked at that game going backwards real quick. I thought Chase Young played with his hair on fire. I was very impressed with him. I got to be honest. I thought the other three guys on the defensive line and tip of the cap to the Bears offensive line, but they were neutralized for the majority of that game. I thought that our team, and again, it was a credit to Matt Eberflus and his staff. I thought they were more prepared. I thought they were better coached, and I think they came out with more intent. And that, to me, was the reason why they won. This Vikings team without Jefferson is obviously not as good. They're not going to change the way they play. Now, Cousins is going to drop back, and they're still going to throw it. And instead of throwing it to Jefferson, he's going to throw it to Addison, or he's going to throw it to whoever else is out there. They have focused on running the football a little bit more because they were allergic to running the football early in the year. So, I think they need more balance. But I don't believe in any way, shape, or form they're going to change how they play. They won't be they won't be as dangerous without Jefferson. But I think you're going to get the same style that they play on a week in and week out basis.
Hey, Cap, something I was thinking about. I was wondering what you and Tom think about this. When I was watching that game again, and like Tom is saying, you watch Washington, you're like, man, they don't look very good in that game against the Bears, right?
Yeah. Black.
I don't know if you guys would agree, but when I watch a lot of NFL film, I think the Eagles are one of the most physical teams. They're top 2 or 3 physical football teams in the NFL up front. Their lines are really fun to watch. I watch a lot of film. I love Jason Kelsey. I love Lane Johnson. I love their guards. I love everything they do. I like their run scheme, and their defensive line are animals. The Washington went into overtime with those animals, right? Like it looked like they did. It looked like they were like a worn-out football. I don't want to take anything away from the Bears, but just kind of like on the Washington side, when I think about it, they went against that super physical football team, and that's why you just keep thinking. And that's the NFL season, man. You got to play week to week. You can only play who shows up on Thursday. But to Tom's point, that defensive line seemed like they went through a war 3 or 4 days before that.
I would advise Bears fans as well, and Carmen DeFalco and Yurko have talked about this. Don't watch Jalen Carter play. And I understand why Ryan. I understand why they did what they did.
Yeah.
But if you watch him play, I think he's the number 1 rated defensive tackle in the league right now, and he's a rookie. And again, he's in a great place for him. Howie Roseman, it was perfect opportunity for them. But if you're sensitive to, shoulda, coulda, wouldas, don't watch Jalen.
Oh, my God. By the way, this is our Vienna Beef. Eye on the opponent. I'm happy to announce my partnership with Vienna Beef this year. So if you're watching, especially from outside Chicago, they have, of course, their 130th anniversary. Look for one of my favorite kits, the Chicago-style hot dog kit. Perfect for any tailgate or game day. Go to viennabeef.com. Use code CAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. I also haven't gotten any thank yous. Hoodie and I are the reason they ran the tush push, because we had Coach Eberflus on. I said, Coach, I got to ask you, man. I would have kicked the field goal. I've made that clear. I thought that was not the correct move. But why don't you watch the Eagles play? Remember when Nagy said you guys watched the Colts game? Why don't you watch the Eagles play and run the tush push? And he said, yeah, we're going to look at that. And then they ran it 3 times. We're taking all the credit for getting him to do that.
I don't blame you, Cap. Somebody, I'm sure he doesn't mind giving you a little credit. You probably gave him that blitz too with Jaylon Jones.
No question about it. I said we're going to play a game up front, and we're going to get a blitz package going. We're going to be more aggressive, Coach. I'll be up in Lake Forest tomorrow. We'll work on the game plan for the Vikings.
What's your technique on the tush push, Cap? What's your technique there? Where you got the quarterback running the ball? What should the center and the two guards do and the tackle?
The center has to get super low, and that's what Jason Kelsey does so well. That's why they are the architects, because that guy's the best in the business since you retired.
Well, and it also helps that you've got a quarterback there and here. Both of them are very, very strong, and it's hard to push them backwards. So, Jalen Hurts, what is he, squats like 670 pounds. And I'm sure if Justin wanted to get under the squat rack, he could do damage as well. So if you'd like the credit, Cap, it's yours. Okay. It's all yours. It's all yours.
We both know Cap likes credit.
Yes, he does. Listen, I'm just so relieved as a fan and somebody who follows this team intently that they got a W. I feel good for everyone in that building. Because we were part of it. We were part of the conversation. This team's a disaster. They're 0-4. There's chaos in their building. Like, everyone in that building needed a W, especially these players. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to, vault them into the top half of the NFC. But I think when you feel better about yourself as a team, and Olin, this, like, you're busting your ass every day. This is a hard job. You're in the weight room, you're on the practice field, you're doing everything you possibly can. And when you're 0-4 and the whole city is down on you, like, it sucks. Just, as they said, shit rolls downhill, and they were just under an avalanche of it. I'm just glad that they got the W. I'm glad we could all talk about a win, and now they just got to build on it.
Oh, gee,
you try your best not to go ahead, Cap. I'm sorry.
If I said to you and to Tommy, both of you, that the most important thing they add in the offseason on the offensive side of the ball is a center, would you say I'm nuts? Because, again, you played the position. I didn't. Tommy played in the league. I didn't. But watching it, I'm watching Cody Whitehair's freaking snaps up here and over here. It's failed when he's been a center under other coaching staffs and regimes. If they get the right guy in the middle of that line, holy balls, man, that could really help.
Anytime, any elite position, right? Any elite player at any position would help. Now, if they could use a center, obviously an elite center, a guy who plays a position at a high level. But I just continue to argue they just need elite football players. Anywhere, like if I'm the Chicago Bears, if there's an elite, whoever I think is going to be elite, guard or tackle, I take them, right? I take guard, tackle, or center, or nose guard or three technique, and I put them on the lines in the trenches, and I try to get myself guys in there who can develop into be great football players for years to come.
Tommy?
I think one of the most interesting things I've heard in years and on this show was something Olin said about the importance of the centers directly related to the quarterback and what capacity the quarterback has to assume the responsibilities. And I remember the story you told, Olin, about going to New Orleans and you were about to take charge of everything. And Drew Brees said to you, I got this.
Yeah, just snap the ball, bro.
Yeah,
that's what he told me. Just snap the ball.
And
it's a humbling experience, to be honest.
But it's such a great point. It's such a great point. And I've always felt it's such an important position because talk to different quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are more bothered by pressure that's right in their face than coming off the edge. Now, they're bothered by all pressure. But when you got a center or a guard that's being dropped into your lap by a defensive lineman or a three technique, that really bothers quarterbacks. And I think that, I think it's a really important position for this team. And I would say yes to your question, Cap. I think center is something they've got to focus on. And I thought that what Olin had to say about the position was very, very revealing.
So, all right, Olin, I don't ask you for a prediction, so I'm asking you for a key to the game. Tommy and I'll handle the prediction business.
I think running the ball and stopping the run. I think that's the key to winning this football game against the Minnesota Vikings. I think their offensive line is going to be a tough matchup for the Bears' defensive line. I expect run stunts out of them. I expect Jaquan Brisker to be in the fold with Eddie Jackson, trying to stop that Minnesota run, make Kirk Cousins throw you the ball. And the Chicago Bears get running the ball again, make them go one-on-one with Moore, and let's see what Fields and him can do.
Tommy?
I think that, I know it's an old cliche, but the reason why they beat the Commanders in a lot of ways to me is they won the turnover battle. They stopped beating themselves. They turned it over 0 times and they took it away twice. I don't think that this team is talented enough to overcome some of their self-inflicted wounds. So if you're going to lose the turnover battle on a week in and week out basis, I don't think you're going to win games. So ball security for me, it's always about third downs as well. Prior to the Commanders game, like they were holding the ball for only 26 minutes, and that's keeping a defense that has struggled the majority of the year on the field way too long. So do your part as an offense, convert your third downs, stay on the field a little bit longer, but you cannot turn the football over. Do what you did against Washington and be clean. And I think that if you do that, you're going to definitely have a chance to beat this Vikings team that's reeling a little bit right now.
So your prediction is?
I like the Bears to win this game. I mean, I think it'll be a fairly high scoring game, 27-24. I mean, Cousins is going to make a mistake or two, but he's also going to push the ball downfield and they're going to make some plays. So I think that the Bears, are going to build on what they were able to accomplish in Washington, and I think they come away with a win in a high-scoring game.
Yeah, I have the Bears 31-24. I think they play the over if you're getting your feet wet in the game. I think they score a lot of points. I think the over is the smart play, but I do think they win the football game. I do. I'm surprised by the line that the Vikings are favored. Even without Justin Jefferson. That's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because 2 weeks ago against the Broncos, Vegas got it right. Last week against the Commanders, they didn't.
Hey, Cap, what's your key to the game, though?
My key to the football game is
the Bears score more points than the Vikings.
Wow. No, for me, it's being physical, and you got to get physical with their receivers. And the key guy for me, for them, you've got to know where TJ Hawkinson is. You have to. Because if you don't stop the run and your linebackers are creeping up, he's going to beat you behind them, and they're going to knife you to death. They are.
Well, Daniel Hunter versus Darnell Wright is going to be a fun matchup to watch now.
Yeah.
Daniel Hunter is very good. 6 sacks, very good pass rusher. Guy's an elite football player out there. Darnell Wright got himself a good matchup there. It's good to watch this young tackle go against an elite talent like that.
And I would say also,
you learn, right?
Sorry, Tyler, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a quick start I think is really important because I think this is a Vikings team that's down. So don't give them any hope. Keep them down from the first snap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you won the toss, would both of you take the football and say, I'm going to run it right down their throat, or are you kicking it off and trying to stop them? Coach?
Yeah,
Kreutz?
not at home. Not at home. At home, I'm kicking it. I put my defense on the field and let that crowd go wild.
Yeah, and Olin talked about it earlier, too. Like, part of me appreciates what Matt Eberflus, the message he sent to his team. But what you want to try to do is you want to go for the 2-for-1. I mean, you want to try to have control of the football at the end of the first half and receive the football to start the second half. So I think that would be my approach, especially at home.
Gentlemen, I will see you next week. Bears, Vikings. I went to college in the Twin Cities. I've already had 4 or 5 of my fraternity brothers go, dude, we're coming down to beat your ass. So I don't want to hear that.
What school was that, Cap?
That stupid horn.
Cap, what school was that?
That was Hamlin University, man. Harvard of the Midwest.
Southwest Minneapolis Community College.
What's football like at Hamlin, Cap?
Our coach was Tressel. We had a good program, man.
A good program there. All right.
Yeah.
It's 8-man football, Olin. You know.
And you know the funny thing is,
did they sign up in the dorms? Was that intramurals?
Wow. The name of the field. True story. Tommy knows this. The name of the field is Kaplan Field. It's named after some guy from 1920 who gave a bunch of money. Not related. We were at the Final Four doing our show, and Bob Huggins said, you went to school up here. Were you a decent athlete at all? I said, they named a stadium after me, you son of a bitch. And he looked it up in the little blue book. He's like, that freaking stadium named after you? I said, that's right. I do. It's not after me. Same name, not me. Pretty
So
funny.
Huggins is just a basketball coach there,
Yeah.
not an engineer. I see.
No,
Not a rocket scientist. All right. Hey, thanks again to our newest sponsor, Westtown Bakery. Hey,
Cat, would you finish that donut?
No.
I'm going to now. But they're at Milwaukee and Lake Cook. Brunch on Saturday, Sunday is spectacular. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you guys next Tuesday and bear the hell down. Let's go.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4FELDCO. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, Four Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you.